Welcome to Under the Geometree
with psilocybin as your host and
Chess. Hi guys. Been a week.
It has been a week.
And it has been a week.
How are you doing, Chess?
I'm doing great. Lots of stuff has happened in that short amount of time, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we got a new format happening here. We're going to start off with some news. We'll take turns going over some stuff, maybe talk a little bit about each piece, and maybe some of our own thoughts on what's going on with that. And then we'll move on to introduce our
exciting new guest, our first guest that we have.
Yeah.
Special guest, Bob.
We've already done the interview with him. We had a fantastic chat. It was not forced. It was very good.
Yeah, all about underground cultures in Calgary, and this one's kind of salacious.
Yeah, it's a little on the R-rated side.
Taboo.
So if you're listening, if you have kids around, maybe don't encourage them to be around. Yeah, don't have kids around. It's an adult-rated episode. I don't imagine we're going to be doing a lot of those, but
it's not content that kids would really be too interested in, anyways. So,
but fascinating nonetheless.
Absolutely.
The stuff that Bob was talking about happens here in Calgary, a very straight-laced, very conservative city.
Stuff that you might not think about or know about.
Yeah. So look forward to that. There's going to be some. You're going to enjoy it. We enjoyed it.
Yep.
And
it was a riveting talk.
Yeah.
Very exciting stories and
interesting
interesting discussion afterwards as well.
Yeah. I'd like to think that our future discussions will be the same way. We're not limited to just the one topic with the guest, but we can have a natural conversation and move into other areas of interest and
for sure.
Us. Yep. So
all right, so some news items here. My first name slip. Chess, would you like to? So there's a little bit of a fret earlier with Calgary weather in the tornado watch, which was kind of freaky, kind of cool. The clouds were looking pretty neat outside, pretty menacing.
Yeah, my sister sent me an image of one of the funnel clouds.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Was it the one that I saw earlier?
Yeah.
Another guy sent one at Chinook Mall. It's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it touched down. I know it didn't outside of Calgary.
I heard
Calgary
it did.
So, I think up first on your list there, Chess, is Pluto photos.
Yeah, and I kind of want to go into a little more detail with the Pluto photos than you would normally think, because I have something that really bugs me with these NASA satellites.
Okay.
Before every time a NASA satellite goes on approach to a new body like Ceres or that
Mars.
asteroid that they just had. Well, yeah, sometimes Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And to Pluto, every time they approach a new body, all of a sudden the satellites cut out and go into safe mode, or something happens, or there's a glitch in the system. And I'm not saying it's because they find anything, or they come into contact with something, or there's aliens or anything like that. All I'm saying is stop calling it a glitch or a breakdown or just a weird anomaly that makes it go into safe mode. What I believe is happening is they're adhering to protocols that were put in place by the Brookings report that was set up in the early 60s, I believe. I can't remember. And the Brookings report was basically an idea to gauge reaction of the public in the case of extraterrestrials being exposed or being shown to the public.
Right. Okay. So they're not necessarily finding anything, but there are some precautionary measures that they have to take.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, whether or not it gives them time to react to any kind of situation or see what's happening in the image before it reaches the public.
So we don't get to see it live, essentially.
So we don't get to see it live because
delayed.
they vet it, they look through it. And I wish, instead of just saying
That's
it's
too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad.
I want to see it live.
Yeah. But
And that goes for the rover, too? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You know what? I have no idea for the rover. You know what? They probably just let that rip. But and if rover sees something, then I guess it sees something. But for these satellites, where they have a little bit of leeway for timing and when it comes in, it does give them time to shut it down or pretend to shut it down. Look and see what they've got. Make sure it's not full of alien life or cities or anything like that. And then they can either make an appropriate announcement or have a different approach, or they just turn it back on and discover that it's just the planet, just the body. But anyways,
It wasn't
that's
something that I was aware of, that they had those delays and stuff. Like, are you going to the NASA website or?
Yeah, it's NASA website. It's always in the news as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the satellite will go into safe mode, and it happens every single time. Why don't you just tell us that you want to vet it? NASA wants to vet it to make sure it's being brought to us in an appropriate manner or announced properly rather than shocking us. So, I have no problem with it. It's just, why not just come out and tell it like it is? Like, humanity is a lot different now than it was back in the 60s.
Right. And every time, it can't always be having some kind of problem. Like, it's kind of ignorant to the public, or to just lie constantly, just saying, oh yeah, there's some issue with the satellite.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what? Have you not fixed the issue by this time around?
Yeah. Yes, and they're like, well, we ran into the exact same problem with the exact same thing. It's like,
but it's fixed now.
Yeah, but it's fixed now.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that's my rant on that one.
Cool. And hopefully we'll have some links to some cool shots. Yeah.
Yeah.
If underneath.
Yeah, if anyone has any comments to that or anything to add or their perspective and what they think about it, feel free to.
Anyone from NASA might want to.
Yeah, can you respond to this?
Please.
Especially NASA.
And then we have some other questions too, if you respond to that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And that pretty much wraps that. Greece. How about Greece?
I don't really know too much about Greece. I think you're more educated in that. So, I know what's going on there in terms of the bank bailout.
Basically, this looks like the IMF is trying to. It looks like a coup, and Spain actually has called it like it is. And they started a solidarity march for Greece, and they've coined the hashtag "It's a coup," and they're standing in solidarity with Greece in order to help the people. I guess.
So they
realize
want the banks to fail.
Yeah, they want the banks to fail, and they should fail.
And what happens if they fail? Then a new bank opens.
They just set it up with a new bank, like Iceland did.
They just create a brand new bank.
Brand new bank.
Government run.
Brand new government run. That's the key to it, is actually getting government run currency.
Because they had their own currency in Greece. I forget what it was called, but there's a documentary I was watching where they have a bunch of different currencies, but there was one that was most popular, and it was an internet-based network currency. Not nearly as complicated as Bitcoin or anything like that.
No.
But it was more like they would use it to trade, like to buy groceries and stuff like that. And the other shopkeeper would be aware of that and would keep count of the amount that they basically gave off in that type of currency. And then I forget entirely how it worked, but it was pretty neat.
That's cool.
Yeah, there was
It was a virtual currency, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like cryptocurrency, rather.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I don't think it was as complicated. I don't know if it ran off of blockchain or anything like that. But
Okay.
it was. It was the idea was like kind of like. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I got to get more information on that, unfortunately.
You know what? If the banks do fail in recovering this or making the negotiations, I think it'll be a good opportunity for the people of Greece to come up with other solutions and other financial opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and maybe the West can look to.
Yeah, or just look at Iceland. Like, I mean, they're doing just fine.
Yeah,
they're recovering faster than the rest of us. And they didn't go for the austerity measures. They kicked their bankers out, the international bankers out. Not only did they kick them out, some of them were arrested for.
Yeah, I think they arrested 7 or 8 people.
Yeah,
I heard.
So, anyways, go Greece. I'm on the pro let the banks fail side, and get you guys will make it through. Well, the funny thing is they brought it to a referendum. The initial should we get back with the European Union or something like that, and then the people said no. We're like, no, we're done. And then the bankers snuck in again. And so the people are just double upset because they're like, no, we already said no.
And our government's not listening to us.
And their government's not listening to you. But anyways, that's about par for the course.
Well, yeah. What was the hashtag again? Coup?
Hashtag it's a coup.
It's a coup.
Yeah.
IT, comma, S.
I don't think it was a comma. It was just it's a coup.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Anyways, this next topic you might know more than me about. I don't know.
I know a little bit about. I just kind of read the headline, but I wish I had a little bit more background on this. But I don't. If you guys know what salvia is, Salvia divinorum is a type of psychoactive plant drug that is legal in. I don't know if it's illegal in the States.
Actually, I don't even know.
I think it's legal in the States as well, but. And you've probably seen YouTube videos of young teenagers and stuff, or older adults or younger adults smoking it and tripping out in their basements, usually falling off of a chair or running around or screaming or just laughing hysterically. And it's a pretty interesting drug that basically you take, you smoke it, or you can ingest it, and you get about a 5-minute trip that's quite powerful. And yeah, it's been legal for a long time. They've used it in tribes, I believe, used it for meditational purposes, but I don't believe it was actually to smoke. It was more just incense. They would use it for meditating and stuff like that. But it's pretty harmless. I mean, it's because it's short. But anyways, now, just like everything else that's getting criminalized, it is now Harper is trying to make this drug illegal. Like normally right now you can buy it in any pretty much any head shop. You just go there and you ask for Salvia divinorum, or it's also known as brain freeze is another name for it.
I think that's just kind of like one of the plant types or something.
No, it's just the brand.
Oh, really?
That's what the guy said. He said it's Salvia. It's just a different type of brand, like whatever company is branding it. But if you get a chance to try it, definitely, it's an interesting. Do it smart. You can go online and there's instructions on how to do it. Make sure you're supervised and you're not, doing it out in the middle of a party or something like that. Do it in a controlled environment. And,
somewhere safe.
And you might get something out of it. I tried it and didn't really have too much success, but I don't think I took enough. So, but I
think it's got to be potent.
It could be used for, for getting.
Yeah, no, I've definitely heard of people getting very introspective journeys on it, and being able to reflect on how their life is, where their life is going and how their life is playing out, and things that they need to change. So, like, it's for some people it can be a life-changing experience. And for other people, it's more of just a quick journey.
Yeah.
So it depends on it depends on the individual. And some people, quote unquote, have bad trips. But again, like when they say bad trips, they just mean they don't like having to face that inner inner self,
inner demon. But if you if you're with somebody that can calm you down and say, hey man, you're tripping on Salvia right now, just calm down, you're gonna be okay. Don't make sure you watch them so that they don't fall out of a chair that they're in or something like that, and it could be used responsibly, just like anything else. Yeah. But
now it's illegal.
The route to take it is not to just brutally make it illegal, just like everything else. So, anyways, that's upsetting. That is upsetting because it's
a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah, like everything else.
Anyways,
and everything else drug wise, except for some like Colorado and them, they're getting their ideas with legalizing marijuana. But anyways, yeah. Shitty Harper. Screw you.
Try something better.
Yeah.
Try something that works. Hey, I think that's I think this is kind of tied to his move to privatize jails in Canada.
Oh, yeah. Well, it makes sense. You privatize them and then make it so that all these
easy laws, easy laws,
easy way to throw you in prison, and then private jails make the money off of it, and it's not good.
Yeah, we should find a way to reverse that privatized jail thing here in Canada. I think it's just, I think it's garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's good.
Yeah. All right, and next on our list is the launch of Jade Helm, and the initial reaction happening around the States and I guess around the world for those paying attention to what Jade Helm is.
And now that's not covered by any media, so if you look it up, it's really not being reported by any news.
Yeah.
So what is
Jade Helm?
Yeah.
Well, Jade Helm is...
for our viewers, I kind of have an idea.
Yeah. Jade Helm is a military exercise happening across the states, mainly the southern to the southwest states. And what's happening is they're doing a training exercise in the case of a civil unrest. So if there's a kind of a upheaval and there's people rising against the government or rising against who knows what, they're trying to get their training in order so that they are prepared for it. And
that sounds sketchy.
It does sound sketchy. It's just like can't this be a localized thing, like state by state? Why does it have to be a federal?
Yeah.
And why is it such a big deal? And also, there's a whole bunch of other details on it, like Jade. Jade is a program that it's an AI program that they're running to simulate these outbreaks of civil unrest. And they're using that information to kind of move their men around and run these simulations. And the AI is like extremely smart. It can you don't need a chip or anything inside you. It'll pick up who you are just based off of where you've been and where you were, and social media, and off of satellites. It can pick you off, it knows exactly where you are. Anyway, so that's
scary stuff.
That's really scary stuff. But this is the kind of software they're employing for Jade Helm. And a lot of people, I think the exercise is going to go through till September. Mm-hmm. So there's still quite a bit of time left on the exercises. There's a lot of people. The initial reaction is kind of hilarious because you got people like Alex Jones who are just ranting and raving and saying it's the end of America and everything's gonna end on this and people are gonna be locked up in trains and put in shackles and stuff like that. And none of that is really happening. But at the same time, if there's trains with shackles, that is kind of scary.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be as that abrupt, but it is a drastic change that'll take course over, like, will probably take place over a course of a period of time without people really noticing it, except for people that have that on their radar.
Yeah. So anyways, the reaction, like, absolutely. And, like, the people that are kind of refuting what people like Alex Jones are saying are just kind of, like, tearing into them right now. Like, where's the black helicopters, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you know, with due course, I mean...
But there are tanks that are running through places like Texas and
it's
small cities and small towns.
Yeah. It's okay to, like, say, yeah, I was right about it, like, nothing's happening. But at the same time, look at the bigger picture. You've got, like you said, Phil, you've got tanks going through towns. Mm-hmm. Why do you need a tank going through a town? Like,
yeah,
it's disgusting.
I mean, unless there's something specific that's happening to protect the public right then and there, I don't think that there is a reason to have. And if it is a military drill, then, you know, when's the last time that's happened? Why is that happening now? That's kind of, it brings to question what's going on there, definitely. So. But yeah, we'll put a link up to a really great podcast that introduces and talks about Jade Helm through John B. Wells.
John B. Wells, yeah. It's
right.
Midnight to Caravan. Actually has a
Caravan to Midnight.
Caravan to Midnight.
Yeah. And we'll provide a link to that. And there's a lady that was talking about it in quite detailed. Yeah. DJ, I think her name was.
DJ, yeah. Quite detailed discussion, yes. Very... Very interesting, very kind of disturbing news on how AI is going to be playing a role in military-industrial complex.
Yeah, it's interesting and scary, but, I mean, if you feel like freaking yourself out, go listen to it.
Absolutely.
All right, well, okay, well, before the podcast, I was looking into information on underground societies, underground cultures and stuff, specifically in Calgary, because our guest was going to be talking about his knowledge there, and I'm not originally from Calgary, so I don't really know too much. But one thing I found that was interesting is I pulled up Enmax parties, apparently, by the company, and the CEO, Gary Holden, was throwing some really lavish, fancy parties. And I guess the big thing is that it got disclosed to the media, and it was like through a recorder or something like that. Like he was talking to an employee, and the employee, like the information got leaked in terms of like what the expenditures were and stuff like that. Jeez. But apparently he had like private parties for the company under the company's dime. At his house, and he had like private rock stars there. What was it? I forget some of the names, like Tom Cochran and some other guys. But so much so that the government and people in Calgary got really angry to the point where he canceled the company Christmas party. It had that much of an effect.
He canceled the Christmas party?
Canceled
of all parties.
Canceled the Enmax Christmas party. Now, I'm not sure what year this was in because I just Google searched it, but I don't think it was too long ago. Yeah, and apparently, like, Nenshi was commenting on it, too.
Nenshi is our mayor.
Mayor Nenshi was mad at Enmax and Gary Holden for having these lavish parties as well because, like I said, it was under... like the company's dime or like our taxes. Like
well, Enmax is run by is a city-run company.
City-run company that does energy.
Yeah, energy
in
supplier.
Calgary. And so we're essentially paying for all those parties for them to have.
That is upsetting.
Yeah, not too happy. But I think they've dealt with it. I'm not sure. He's definitely received some flack on it. So. Like he's pulling back a bit, or they'll just be more secretive, and he'll be a lot more cautious about who he talks to.
How he launders his money and
so
all the shady stuff that he, I guess, does. Who knows?
So yeah, if you're interested in that, look up Gary Holden, CEO, Enmax, secret parties.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to find a little bit more interesting stuff under, like in Calgary, is in terms of underground cultures and stuff, but I didn't really find too much. But our guest, on the other hand, has knows personally, went through, and found some really cool
or just disturbing,
wild
for
stuff.
for a lot of people it'll be disturbing. For a lot of people it'll be crazy, weird, but this happens. These underground. This is a great example of underground cultures.
Yeah.
And how they can spawn.
I mean, it's not harmful. It's just different, taboo, and quite fascinating, I found.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating, and it was really quite an eye opener for myself. Like,
We're
actually,
so lame.
I'm ignorant.
We're so lame.
So lame, or just
I thought I had
boring
parties.
compared.
Yeah.
These are this definitely is a look into a realm that most people are not familiar with, and that's kind of why we wanted to ask them questions about it. This is so different for us, and that is kind of our mantra, I guess. Let's find out the weird. Let's find out the different, and let's talk about it. Let's bring it up.
Yeah.
And not be shy about it. Yeah.
For sure. So without further ado, we will
please welcome our special guest,
Bob.
Okay, and we are recording.
All right,
and welcome, and our guest, Bob.
to Under the Geometree.
Yeah, we can do that later.
Oh, all right, I got you. Sorry.
Yeah, we're already past
I see what
that.
you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, we're past introductions, and we've got our first inaugural guest here with us, Bob.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, we are very excited to have you. We're excited to hear your stories. That's why we've got you here.
So you guys had me come on, and you guys told me that it's about sort of underground cultures, and about sort of the shadier sides of life. I guess.
Yeah, somewhere along those lines, shadier sides of life, the stories that are kind of swept under the rug. Kind of the aspects that people may or may not want to pay attention to or want to believe exists, actually.
Stuff that normal people aren't really privy to. Not normal. Like a typical person might not know about.
It's weird.
Or just situational.
It's kind of weird because I think most people belong to some sort of an underground club. They all believe that there's like this special, unique group that they belong to, and they have an idea as to how the world works, and that's the right way to go about it. And the groups I've been part of, it's the exact same way. They really enjoy what they do, and they really have a good time doing it. And the way that because they have such a fondness for it, they treat it with respect.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, makes it a much better experience than people really want to think about.
For sure.
So,
I like that point you brought up, is that everyone thinks there's a certain like world, I guess, for them that's kind of out there.
Yeah.
And then after being stuck in maybe a conservative style lifestyle for a while, they may want to break out and find more people that are like themselves.
Right.
And there's a certain level of attraction that happens where eventually, if you're stuck not doing that, then you'll eventually, whether you get depressed or you don't feed that what you need.
Yeah. And
that's what I'm missing.
But there's also something really, the cool thing about being underground is that it's both frightening, but it's also really comforting. It's this weird thing of like, that what you're doing might not be accepted, but because there's other people there with you, and because you kind of exist in this world, you feel much comfortable about who you are. And that allows you to be somebody more honest and real in the real world when you're like above ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I can give you guys a sort of background as to what my experiences were.
Absolutely,
yeah, for sure it would be.
So I started, like, I guess for starters, is that I was really into sort of fetishes.
Mm-hmm.
And like I started looking into fetish stuff when I was about 16 in high school. And I was on internet forums and I was looking at stuff that I probably should have had no idea even existed.
But you're a teenager.
But I'm a teenager.
And it's the internet.
And it's, yeah. And one of the advantages is that, like, my parents knew nothing about computers.
Oh, yeah.
So they had no
That was
control
not the case.
over what I was looking at. They had no control what I was doing on there. They had no control over, like, how things worked. You know, I had my parents come in one time and they took my mouse away thinking that, oh, yeah, you know, he's not going to be able to use the computer anymore because he doesn't have a mouse. And it's like, I can do everything from a keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, absolutely everything I need is just, you know, holding different commands and whatever, and it works.
Yeah.
And so eventually I found my way onto certain sites, and I actually met my boyfriend. And
Wow.
that was...
What kind of forum was it? Like, was it online?
It was through video games, but...
Really, actually?
Yeah,
Really?
it was through video games, and then there's a subsection of the video games that we played, which was actually based on furries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my god.
What
So-
video game was it? I just like curiosity.
Counter-Strike.
Oh.
Yeah, we played Counter-Strike on a furry server, and both of us, like, we started playing there because it's like the communities are so much nicer. Like, anytime
You're not gonna run into those assholes that are like.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, you go into and like there's an actual community because it's it's a small group knit of people, or small knit group of people.
Yeah.
Close knit. Yeah.
Yeah, close knit, and then so they're just nicer to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a common background and a common thread and a common interest that goes beyond, like, just playing a video game.
Mm-hmm. Camaraderie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a community there. And
Mhm.
when you're, you know, playing a video game in other places, it's like, you know, everybody says, fuck you, you're a faggot, blah, 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 you know, what the fuck? Just constant yelling, screaming. There's no real sense of community except for maybe 2 or 3 people who kind of regularly go to the same servers
Mm-hmm.
and, like, the admin staff who have to maintain it.
So, here's a question for you. Well, like, not to interrupt, but were you kind of like persecuted, I guess, for being gay, or were you beat up, or
Never.
never?
Never had a problem with it.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Wow,
Well,
unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not once.
That's unreal.
Part of it, though, I think...
Did people know though?
That's,
Like,
I
were
think,
you
part of
open
it.
about it?
Yeah, I was, like, comfortable talking about, like, the furry porn I looked at and stuff, but nobody...
But like at school, did people know?
Oh, yeah. I would convince my friends to play on the same servers I played on because, A, it was funny as shit seeing them freak out at, like, gay furry porn. And B, it was just, like, they actually had a lot of fun because the communities were interesting.
Right.
Right. So, anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I guess from there, from looking at the furry stuff, you know, one of the things that the fandom sort of has an issue with is, you know, it's highly sexualized. It's extremely highly sexualized. Everything inside that fandom belongs to Rule 34 in some way or form.
Wow.
Right?
Can you explain to our listeners what? I know what it is.
Explain it to-
but Phil doesn't know. I know what it is.
Oh yeah, I don't. So
So Rule 34 is more or less like, if it exists, there is porn of it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
that. I just
yeah.
didn't know what it was called.
It's Rule 34.
Rule 34.
You name it, like, now you can go on Reddit right now and you can look up a subreddit that's like, I think it's dragons fucking cars. And then of course, you know, there's the opposite.
And then someone forms a little tight-knit group with dragons
No,
fucking cars. And
No, but then somebody's like, you know what? I really like cars fucking dragons. So they reverse that situation. You're like, this is the most messed up stuff in the world.
I remember learning about this in school, and it blew my mind. And the girl telling me was like, yeah, they even have like inflatable porn. So like they take a character and they inflate it, and they make it look like big, like air was pumped into it. And for some reason, people are really turned on to that. Like that turns their crank. And I was like, I don't believe you. And then she brought it up and showed me, and I was like, okay, I believe you, but I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. There's that. There's stuff like vor, which is people who enjoy thinking about being eaten.
oh,
in some
wow,
ways,
I've heard
and
about that.
Yeah.
man.
What's it called? Vor?
Vor. Yeah.
Why is it called Vor?
Voracious,
Yeah. Something like that.
Oh, okay.
maybe.
But
That's
it's-
a guess.
But it's like, yeah, it's, people who get off on this idea of like being eaten, and my guess is that the psychology behind it is something about like giving your body away as nourishment to another being,
Yeah.
and like somehow fetishizing that to themselves. Like, that's the way I look at it. So I mean, like, there's definitely threads as to why people are like that. But yeah, and then from there, I grew up. I got out of the furry stuff because I'm like, it's just cartoons. And I started to find out about things like kennel clubs and societies for the kink and these other kind of places that are local that have a stigma about them. And there's, a good 4 or 5 different websites that are all based off of kinks and fetishes in where we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
They know we're in Calgary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
okay.
You're
Yeah.
fine to say that.
So yeah, so there's the Alberta, Kennel Club. There's the Alberta Society of the Kink, and so I eventually got involved with the Alberta Society of the Kink and the Kennel Club, and that was through a friend of mine who worked at a really awesome sex shop that closed down.
I was on 17th, right?
It was on the one on 17th. I was up there for like a while. It was called Pre-App. I think they still have an online store, but it's only in Montreal. And there was a lot of drama about that place kind of closing down within the communities because it was like,
Oh.
that was the only place you could
It
get.
was like a hub or...
Well, it was the only place you could actually get high quality gear, and you could get proper lubricants and all this other stuff. Because you go to any sort of sex shop, and it's all sex shops. They're like San Francisco, if you guys remember those in malls.
Yeah.
It's all
Spencer's in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's all fucking
Yeah.
fake, right? It's like the cheapest lube you can buy. It's the cheapest, latex
dildos
and dildos.
yeah, everything's just
Yeah.
garbage.
Crap quality. Yeah.
Or it's novel stuff that's novel and gimmick so that it can be sold to some chick on her bridal or on her bachelorette party or
Yeah.
something.
Right, because that's probably the majority of their sales.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I'm totally having flashbacks now of that San Francisco store.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Remember being
That was a
younger.
staple of the mall. Every time we had to go to the mall, my sisters would take off for the clothes and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I'd be straight
Yeah.
to San
Just
Francisco.
See, and us in Lethbridge was right in the back. You had to go all the way in the back, and that's where all like the filthy, dirty shit was.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like, as a young kid, you're just like you're running in the back.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyways, yeah.
oh, I loved how shady those
Posters.
places were. It's
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
that they closed down because you think nowadays with our society as liberal as it is, like,
It would have been right up there.
yeah. But,
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, they are garbage. Like the most of them now. It's just you go in there and it's really quite like in the stuff. Just speaking from experience from like my girlfriends, the stuff that you get there breaks like so easily.
Yeah.
It's all crap.
So, and I mean, you don't get like the kind of extreme stuff either.
That that too.
Like you're not gonna probably find any decent sounding gear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys.
Sounding. Yes, I
Sounding
know what
gear?
sounding is.
So
Once again, educating their ball.
Okay, Phil needs to be filled in.
all right. Is that what it's gonna be? Alright.
That's a triple entendre.
So, sounding gear is designed for urethral play. So it's like a large metal tube, and it originated in the Middle East, and that gets slotted into the urethra.
Sounding gear.
Sounding.
Why is it called sounding gear?
I don't know. That I don't know. I don't know why it's called sounding.
Also
gear,
known as, if you look on Urban Dictionary, sandboxing.
sandboxing. I mean, I've never heard that term.
Yeah.
No.
Sandbox.
But yeah, so
Crazy.
which that stuff is it's actually really fun because it can get you up back to back, which is really really interesting. Like you can go 4 or 5 times in a row if you use sounding gear.
Wow.
Wow.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's got that type of stuff. And I mean, there's
I've never really explored that territory.
there's like male
So-
bondage gear that you could get. And,
Okay, so this might be going into a little too much detail, but I don't care. If something's blocking the urethra, what happens? Like, I mean, if you finish, where does that go?
well, you don't finish with it in.
Okay.
So what you do is you use it to either A, torture,
Okay.
or B, just to get them hard again.
Oh wow.
So it's like foreplay then.
Yeah.
It's a
Sure,
foreplay
foreplay.
tool.
Yeah.
Ah.
Okay.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
So yeah. So then there's like, you know, bonded gear, which you couldn't really get. You can't really get. I don't know. Actually, I haven't been to a sex shop in a while. Like one of the cheaper ones.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some in some sex shops, but
Yeah, but again, it's going to be mostly the cheap stuff.
yeah, it's
and, like,
probably cheap. It wasn't cheap though, like fucking $300 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Which it is.
So like, I guess it's very like niche gear, anyways.
Yeah.
Like I mean, they don't sell much of it, so it is going to be expensive, right?
And then yeah, so eventually I got into the kennel scene.
Okay, tell us that story. Tell us how like you found it and how maybe you were welcomed in or.
Well, it was all through the sort of friend that I had who was working in the sex shop. I was coming in a bit more often, and I was talking to him. He happened to be a furry. I think he still is actually. He frequents one of the sites here, or one of the really popular sites. I think Alberta has.
Were you gonna
really,
say messed up?
No.
Oh.
It's actually a really popular furry site in Alberta. The community here is strangely big. Yeah.
Should we explain what furries are to some people? Like I know, but
Yeah, explain.
Just in
because
case.
we might have listeners that don't know what that is.
So furries
with
are like.
everything out there, man, there's definitely a
I like how
possibility.
I like how we're putting this responsibility on you. Wow. That's awesome.
So yeah, furries are they're a very, very interesting, I guess, group of people. But they it stems from it's a really wide range of people. You know, it goes from like these really sort of anthropomorphic characters. There's parts where it's just like only small parts of the bodies are anthropomorphic, and by that I mean sort of animalized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what most furries are, is, you know, based off of animals.
Like cats or dogs.
Cats,
or something like that,
dogs, dragons, horses, whatever. Pretty much if there's
okay,
an animal.
So furry classifies all.
Yeah. And then there's scalies and there's avians, which are also part of the furry fandom. Yeah.
Scalies and aliens.
Yeah.
No, avians.
Avians.
So like birds.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
said.
Oh, okay. I thought you said aliens.
Yeah.
No, avians.
Oh no, there's aliens too.
I'm sure.
I'm sure. Why leave them out?
Furry aliens.
And then there's also there's a lot of fetishizing youth in there. I think part of that is stemming just from like a lot of the concepts come from cartoons.
Right.
So,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
You're getting a lot of people who take stuff like Lion King and
Right.
turning that into porn.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So yeah. So back to kind of the story here. He sort of invited me to a party with some of these other people, you know, and it was a very sort of interesting. I was in a very sort of interesting place in my life because I was sort of in school and it was summer. I was getting really bored of kind of doing nothing during the summers because it's like, you know, I didn't work. I did stuff sort of under the table, which I probably so I did stuff underneath the
Who
table.
didn't?
Yeah.
I always did work where paid cash in hand and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
That's
so it's
definitely
like,
in places where you shouldn't have been either. Like.
yeah, and the thing is that if you do it under the table, then you can go and you can get the low income grant because you say you don't work, and you can get the government gave you free $1,000 and stuff like that, or they cut off some of your loan or whatever.
Yeah.
So I ended up at some of these parties with him, and then sort of there's one night where we both were drunk and stoned, and the next thing you know, I'm sort of in his bedroom putting on a whole bunch of leather gear and bondage straps and stuff like that, and he's sort of putting me through the ropes, and I'm explaining and you know, kind of going back and forth.
You've never done anything like that before at that point?
I've fooled around sort of at home and in private, but it wasn't really anything.
And a stranger?
Yeah. And so that kind of evolved, and we developed this friendship. And he was really connected, and he'd been doing it for a long time. So he's a year younger than me, and he's been, you know, he's got an owner. He's got a sir.
Explain that.
Wow. An owner and a sir.
Well, a handler, I guess, would be the right way.
Handler, okay.
So in the whole sort of pup scene and inside the
Oh, that's a new term.
Pup scene.
There.
We're getting a whole bunch here.
So we went.
Owner,
so kennel
handler.
consists of. We've left the furries then.
yeah, we're moving out of the furry stuff and into the real life sort of.
Yeah.
So we're looking at sort of pup play, And pup play is the guys that you see, in bondage gear. Like if you go to the gay pride, you'll see guys with like hoods on their faces that look like dogs, and they'll be on leashes and they'll be walking on all fours and covered in leather, right? And so that's the pup play stuff, right? And usually when you're that, you also have a handler or a master, and then those people kind of like take care of you to a degree, right? And they control you, and they kind of live out sort of an ownership sexual fetish on top of your sort of subservient pup fetish that you're dealing with. And so it's kind of crazy.
Okay, so is there some kind of like graduation from one to the other? Like is that a thing? Or
I think a lot of it's age based.
Yeah.
Like most of it, like you'll see the handlers are usually older than the pups. And then but there isn't really anything. A lot of times sometimes there's like two people that'll both really enjoy the pup side of it, and it's more of like they just both act like dogs to one another, and they treat each other like dogs.
Wow.
And they act like dogs.
Wow.
So in this kind of like where you've got a handler and a pup, it's more like you want to be subservient to somebody, like that's where you're seeking, and the other guy wants to be dominating.
Yeah. And there's this thing that you kind of really, when you start doing it, it's really fulfilling because it's you get into something that's a headspace, right? And a headspace is like
almost like a flow state.
Yeah.
We're talking about beer.
Flow state. No. A headspace, like a flow state, where what I'm talking about is when I say flow state is a point where there's no work involved. It's just happening almost automatically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's exactly that, where it's, you are just acting, and you're really into it, and the entire world disappears. The entire world just disappears completely.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing experience because you don't think about school, work, you're not thinking about stressful anything. You don't have to think about eating because somebody's going to feed you. You don't have to think about sexual gratification because that's already occurring most of the time. A lot of your bodily functions are being taken care of. Like whatever you can think about in that state is like you're just who you are.
So, and does that like that kind of relationship that you have that exists, like you like you were saying, you don't really have much of a job at that point,
right? But I mean, like, so it's you take yourself out of that context. So usually, you don't do it 24/7, right?
That's okay.
Yeah,
that's right.
So it's like okay, so you make an arrangement for it to be this evening or for this full day on a weekday or on a weekend or something like that. That's usually when you kind of really get into it. Or you do events, like they do camping up in the mountains and sort of different events at the local gay bar and stuff like that. So yeah,
awesome. And just like the online community, it's just as supportive and just as inclusive, I guess.
Yeah. Like I mean, and sure, there's always going to be bad eggs, right? There's always going to be people taking advantage of a situation. There's always going to be people abusing other people. People, and a lot of times you're dealing with really emotional things. So when issues happen, there's a lot of trouble and there's a lot of breakup and there's a lot of drama, right?
Can you tell us about maybe one of those like situations where it got out of hand or?
Well, like I personally haven't really experienced anything like that.
Okay.
But, I do know of like experiences where people were getting, physically abused.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was going further than what they were intending to. Yeah. Like people were taking it a bit too far, or they were doing something that was dangerous.
Right.
Right. Or something like that. And I know there's been times where I've been propositioned by certain people that I know are like, I can't really trust them.
Yeah.
And like I've heard stories or, there's times when these people get invited to a party and they see somebody and, one thing leads to another and there's a person the next day who's been sort of raped. Right? Because, and it's one of these, it's a really sort of gray area because it's like, for them, that's sort of a culture and experience that they've started to live within. And so when they go to another experience and it's kind of closely resembling, it's very hard for them to say that, like, see where the line is.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, if these people get invited to, let's say, a party and something happens within that party that sort of triggers something, the next thing you know is, like, they're wanting to push things further with somebody who might be interested and who might want to try it, but who's not quite at the level that they're experienced with, and so they end up having a really bad experience. Right.
Yeah, I could see that.
And because like you're kind of acting in a way, like that kind of tends to push it, right?
Yeah.
But don't you have like things like safety words like in place and?
Oh yeah, of course, but it's the bigger issue is when, you know, it's newer people, or when it's people who haven't sort of been slowly introduced to the scene or slowly introduced to the experiences, and they kind of want to jump in because they've been denying themselves, you know, for so long what that experience is.
Oh, okay.
I really want to get into it. So
they can't control themselves. Or,
and so I guess going back to the story here. It's not a story anymore, but
still is, yeah. Yeah.
So one of the big experiences that I've had was with my friend. He invited me up to be sort of at a party with him, along with some other people of the community and some of their friends who are, you know, openly gay and comfortable with all this stuff.
Sure.
And
there we go.
Both of us got involved, or more or less what happened is his handler, or his, well, sorry, I'm starting to get things a little mixed up here.
Yep.
So, you know what, the problem is that he has both a handler and he has a master. So he's also quote unquote a slave. And the slave is a little bit different. He really enjoys he more or less enjoys every single fetish you could imagine at this point.
Wow. Yeah.
And so he really enjoys the airplay stuff. So he has a bunch of gas masks, and he likes getting poppers and, you know, having his breath controlled by somebody. But anyway, so he offered me to come up to his master's place, and we ended up becoming more or less servants for them for the evening. So we were cooking for them. We'd be bringing them drinks. They'd be having their dinner on the table. And what ended up happening is his master asked us to more or less end up having sex right in front of them. So we ended up climbing onto the table, and we started sort of engaging in sexual acts, 69ing, doing other sort of, you know, fellatio,
sandboxing.
No, none of that. So rimming, a bunch of, until eventually, you know, we're literally fucking in the middle of a dining table with people around us eating, and we are a live show.
So fucking crazy.
That is wild, man.
No story that I have ever reached the pinnacle.
So, like, tell us about these gentlemen too. These guys that are around you are, like, they're older, right?
Well, it becomes a kind of family. So some of them are a little bit older, right? But some of them are, you know, one of them was a one was a transsexual. It was a she to he experience for him now. There was another sort of dog, or another pup there, another group, like another handler there, and so it's sort of, you become this really close-knit family of, you know, there's this guy and his significant other, so they were married, but at the same time they really enjoyed sort of the fetish life, so they would go to bars and they would meet people, and, you know, they would have a slave and they would have a dog, but these were real people, right? So it's like they had a full family, but instead of it being someone they raised, it was like, okay, we've got a servant. Servant is this person, and we have sex with this person.
Interesting.
And we do this. We have a dog. We treat the dog like this, and and it was literally like just a family.
And so, like, within that, you can like, you don't have to remain loyal to the handler that you were with, like, or is that like something that you have to do? Or
that's
like,
built up in the experience, right? So a lot of people in these communities are, they're not necessarily monogamous, They're pretty much all in open relationships,
Right.
right? And I mean, you develop really strong ties that way. You can be in a relationship with 4 or 5 people and all really love each other.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I remember hearing, like, watching a documentary or something about that, and just like,
Well, isn't it that humans actually were not built for monogamy? Like that's kind of like a I can't remember. It was wasn't it Kinsey or something like that who came up with that research? I can't. Don't quote me on it. But.
I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I do feel like that's the case. Like I think we long for sort of an extremely like monogamous and close relationship with some people.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that might not always be a sexual relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like I may love somebody for the entirety of my life, but I may lose sexual interest in them over time, and I may want to become sexually involved with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean I love them any less.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that, I'm necessarily not sexually attracted to them anymore. It's just like,
That part of it is not
yeah.
necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, why have steak or lobster when you can have both?
Yeah.
So you think.
I totally understand
That's
that. Like I compete in a sport where I have to work with a pair.
Yeah.
And for the most part, when you're working with that person, you want to keep it work. And even though like you train with that person for 3 years, you get close and some things happen. But for the most part, you want to keep it work, and there's that mutual respect out of it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else. And that doesn't mean I don't love that person, because after, being around them for so long, you do love them, and as an individual. But it's not required to have any kind of other relationship. It's like a lot like family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's sort of what it ends up becoming like, is family.
Yeah.
And so when we're on the table and we're serving these people, it's literally like, we're screwing in front of a giant loving group of people, right? And they love us and we love them, and we're willing to perform these acts partially because it's so much fun, right? It's like, there's something really rewarding about making people happy and enjoying yourself and being able to perform that way.
Must be a hell of an adrenaline rush.
Oh yeah, the thing is, it's your body kind of just goes numb to everything, and you get really into the experience, and it's like it's really hard. Like when you're on exhibition like that, like it changes the way you feel and the way you think and what your body is doing and how you're behaving, and these people, they're enjoying it even though they're just eating dinner and stuff like that. So that was sort of one of the bigger experiences that I've gone through, and then there are other times that I've had really bad experiences. Right, there are times when in Calgary there's a place called the Texas Lounge, and it's a really sort of divey bar that's in the bottom of a place on 17th Ave.
Mm-hmm.
And right next to it is a bathhouse, right, and it's mostly frequented by gay people and stuff. And I had the unfortunate experience of having gone there once while I was a bit too drunk, and I've had things happen to me, and I'm like, that was definitely not something I expected, and I can't really blame anybody for that. Like I have to take responsibility for my actions, and I should have been well aware of what was happening. But at the same time, it was still like that experience being so new to me and being so interesting to me was like, it's weird. You walk by a room and there's some guy who's propositioning sex because he's lying on a bed naked with his, legs spread. And it's like literally like anybody can go in there and just start having sex with him. And there's no, that's the life that they're having.
That happens here in the city. That just blows my mind. That is unreal.
Yeah. Like you think, this is only something that happens, in
New York or
San Francisco.
I would think that would happen everywhere.
Oh yeah, but for a lot of people,
that's just something you don't really think about.
This city is so
crazy.
Like they've got their ties so like tight and everything. Like that. It's hard to think that happens here, but It shouldn't surprise me, but it does.
Well, yeah, and it's when I'm at a penthouse that belongs to a swinger, so it's weird because I've actually gotten really close with the relationships with a lot of people, and a lot of the people that I've gotten really close with ended up having sort of similar sexual histories as I have. So in school, for example, there was this one girl, and we were really, really close. And she was telling me about, her sex stories, about how she would end up sometimes in a penthouse suite. And there'd be, her and a friend, and there'd be a couple guys, and it'd be like a swingers party. And, they would just watch. They'd be like, it becomes this experience that's in and of itself unique. And it's really hard to sort of explain what's going on there. Right?
Mm-hmm. They'd just be spectators?
For the most part, yeah.
That would be.
And, it's like... And it happens way more frequent than people really want to give credit to. And it's something that's, like, I don't understand why it's such a taboo thing, but at the same time, I really enjoy the fact that it's hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's like, it's the shocking thing. And that's
gives it its uniqueness, and that's kind of like taboo.
Yeah.
Taboo, yeah.
Yeah.
Taboo tends to have that kind of, that energy to it.
And I mean, it'd be kind of unfortunate if, it kind of became like tattoos, where everybody and their kid has one. You're like, well, it's just awkward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not really tied to the culture, you're not really tied to the scene. The community becomes so, unknit that it just kind of falls apart and just spreads out and just becomes this net that encapsulates a bunch of people.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of loses its identity, its definition.
Yeah.
Like the lines kind of just spread out.
Yeah, so I think like that to me is my experience sort of with these underground cultures. And so tying that all back together, that's how I feel. Like, I loved being part of those scenes. I loved the disgustingness of it as much as I loved, the pleasure and the experiences that I was having with it.
Mm-hmm.
It was great finding out, like, I don't know many people who's ever tried wearing an entire latex suit and then having, drugs pumped into their nostrils. Like, how many people do you guys know who've gone through those experiences?
I held up my 3 fingers.
One?
No.
One?
Like, it's something that's very, very strange. Like, but it's
it's that strangeness that makes it what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and at this point though, the world has become so anesthetized to anything different. Like, everywhere you go, it's the same thing over and over again. And people now don't like it when you do something weird. Like, they don't like weirdness, and I don't understand why. Like, what people are so against when something weird happens. But
I don't know. Is it going against weird, or is it opening up towards weird?
I feel like it's kind of a little bit more like that. Like, people are trying to get more of an identity. It seems like a little bit more.
Well, look at us right now. This is a good example.
sure.
Is, what, we don't let weirdness become an immediate wall or some kind of
Right.
something that you should just shun immediately, or have some kind of preconceived ideas of what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
To me, it's
instead we approach it with curiosity.
Yeah, to me it's like food. It's like anytime that I don't try something, it turns out that I like if I would have tried it, I actually
or just
like
knowing more about it, right?
Yeah,
that's a good.
So we gotta.
But I also think that we as a group of people and the people that we're kind of connected to have kind of lucked out in that we all share a sort of similar openness to that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Like, there were people in pajamas at work. If I go into an office at the top of, Suncor, I'm not going to find people in pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
No,
right?
For sure.
I'm not going to find somebody wearing, like, super interesting patterned pants or, a ball cap. That's
they're
covered
pretty
flags.
interesting, but I don't know if they're super interesting. Oh, he's your name.
I was thinking about somebody else who had at work.
Such a long moment of unediting enough to go, oh, it's alright. But anyways, yeah, no, it's the particular place. Yeah.
Or just kind of like the diversity behind it,
Yeah.
and it's our group is so open and accepting, and it's not oh, don't tell us this because it's disturbing. It's tell me because I want to hear this story. I am curious. I want to know. I want to know more about humans. I want to know like different things that like completely will blow my mind. And this story blows my mind. Like it's great. I love it. So I have like the utmost respect for that. Like, I mean,
but you go on the internet and you go and you experience these giant, I would say, super networks of people, right? You go Reddit, Facebook, Tumblr, all these things.
You name it. Yeah.
That stuff is frowned upon like no tomorrow. Unless you're isolating yourself into a very small subset of that community, it's frowned upon. I can't post this stuff onto Twitter. I can't post the sort of the things that I've seen or like these experiences that have been really, really strong in my life. They've changed who I am fundamentally as a person and how I go about, connecting with people.
Yeah.
I can't post about them on Twitter. I can't post about them on LinkedIn. I can't post about them on Facebook because who knows if I'm applying for a job somewhere and they're like, do we want this guy who happens to have gone through these experiences?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's all kind of kept in the dark.
Right.
Yeah.
Where people could benefit quite a bit from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From
you know where this kind of information would be most appropriate, I guess, as far as getting out, is literature. Into like, you should write a book, man. Like, you should write a book about these experiences because it's kind of like for literature, it's okay to write about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's okay for people to write, 50 Shades of Grey.
Well,
So
that's the nice thing about literature is that it's opt-in,
yep.
right? Or
Yeah.
sorry, it's opt-in and opt-out.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. It's like, I can go to a bookstore and I can opt into buying a book or I can opt out of buying a book, right? It's there's no sort of one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with something like Facebook, it's I have to be connected to certain people. I can't not be connected to family and friends.
Yeah.
Right? And that forces me to change how I behave on the internet.
Yep. Actually,
And
that's one of the reasons why I'm not on Facebook, is because who I am is not defined by my friends and family.
Right.
And a lot of people think it is,
Mm-hmm.
using Facebook as kind of like their tool to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same way with sort of drug culture. Drug culture is another one of those really underground things.
Oh yeah.
Right? And it's like we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
You can't be open about your drug use. It's becoming much, much better now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even 10 years ago, you couldn't be a pothead, you couldn't be a stoner, you couldn't, because you were a loser.
Yeah.
The moment you smoke pot, you are instantly a loser who didn't deserve anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Looked down upon.
Well, that's kind of how I felt. Like, anytime I would talk about, like, even just getting high or like just the words coming out of my mouth, that like immediately I have to sit and like analyze it and be like I don't believe that anymore. I don't believe the whole like stereotypical pothead.
Well, coming from my perspective, where I spent like up until probably 2 years ago, highly regimented, and even on the side of thinking that drugs are absolutely, and I mean absolutely, the worst thing, and they're a bane to humanity. And
I felt the same way.
Yeah, and that was my aspect on them. I thought they needed to go. The war on drugs was justified, and then I've had some experiences that have led me to the other side, saying, no, you're not going to end up a meth addict.
Yeah.
If you try pot.
Yeah, exactly.
And no, it's not going to kill you if you're responsible and you're making the right decisions with it.
Right.
It's and a lot of the times these drugs that are made illegal, or specifically psychotropics, are extremely helpful, and they're illegal compared to another drug that's legal, alcohol.
Well, it's not even alcohol is not even the worst one right now. I mean, more Americans right now die from prescription drugs than any other drug.
Mm-hmm.
That's your biggest killer. That's your biggest addict. Like, is prescriptions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and it's all chemicals, whereas like pot and other psychedelics and stuff are like plants.
And it's legal too.
And it's legal.
Yeah.
And the doctors are paid to prescribe it.
Yeah, and they profit off of it. The doctors profit off of it, and companies profit off of it, and so it's, there's no problem.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, that's like a gigantic paradigm shift that's occurring. Like for me, like just noticing that, like going from like the idea that like drugs are bad and stuff to looking at that and looking at how we're all kept in the dark and how we're taught to believe one way. Like it floors me to think like how I used to think like a couple years ago.
But that's the whole underground thing, right? It's like, okay, if a doctor prescribes you a drug, it's good, right? That's the like mainstream view of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing a drug, that's bad, right? Like if you're doing it unprescribed or if you're doing it illicitly, it's bad. No matter what, it's bad. But if a doctor is giving you a drug, it's like.
And the thing is, this drug, like Salvia, that they're wanting to make illegal, it doesn't affect you. Like it affects you, but there's no long term. It doesn't damage you inside or anything like that. Like it doesn't harm your body.
Long term side effects.
Yeah. I mean,
well, there might be, but
yes, you could do something stupid on it. Well, yeah, there could be a long term side effect,
but
or something like that. But that's not the reason why they're making it illegal.
No, but I mean, any sort of long term side effects come from, unresponsible use.
Yeah,
and it's the same way with any drug.
But could you honestly, like, is that something you really want to use long term? Like, oh man, I gotta go home and, like, smoke some salvia.
No.
You're not gonna go on a smoke break and, smoke salvia.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like having, to me, like, those, like, psychedelic experiences are like having a bad dream or some kind of crazy dream.
Yeah.
That, like, you're like, okay, I could do without having this
Speak
dream
for
a while. For a little while, for me, anyways. But, like it would, like I got a lot out of it. Like I can read into that, and
you're always gonna learn something.
Yeah, and it's quite an experience too. Like if you have a good or a bad dream, it's like pretty impactful. Yeah. Anyway, look at it. So
well, that's one of the nice things about the whole like sexual stuff, the fetish stuff, is that it's like having the same effect, but you can regiment it and you can do it with people, and if you have a strong enough community around it, it's just, I think, as powerful, because, that's, like, sex is probably the second, third most important thing that, we as people feel, right?
Yeah.
I would say it's like, fear or, fear of life, death, whatever, then eating. Like, I think eating and then sex. Like, those are the three big things.
You think fear of death is important?
Well, I think, like, at the moment, like, for anything that's going to cause your body to change in the moment,
Oh, you mean like as a survival instinct, and not as a static thing where you're just sitting there scared of death.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I mean, like, those are the three biggest motivators or factors in our lives, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Like, from survival, from, like, our base human, proto-human sort of evolution stuff, is, like, fear, sex, and food. Those are the three things that we really fucking care about.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it's, like, that's what sex offered. Sex was a drug. Right, sex still is a drug, and it was really highly tied to being to being with a drug. And now I'm lucky enough to I've kind of stopped doing a lot of that stuff. It's cooled down quite a bit. I still meet with the person. He's older too, so he's kind of slowed down with that and kind of go on living your life. And I wouldn't mind maybe when I get more settled, maybe finding somebody that I could one day control. Right, like.
Wow.
I think it would be a lot of fun to sort of own...
Be a master?
Yeah, to be a handler,
that brings me back to the question. Do you become a master? And I guess that kind of seeps in somehow, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
Is your boyfriend into that too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is he a pup right now? Or?
Yeah, I make him kind of be one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
He's good to go for that and everything?
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, it took him some coaching to get into it and stuff, but... Like now he loves it and he's sort of more addicted to it than I am.
Really?
He just came out to his parents.
Mm.
Like not even not even a month ago.
Oh, yikes.
And we've been in a relationship for almost 10 years.
Jesus.
So
Wow.
so for him to do that was huge. And you know,
Crap.
it's like,
Was it received well? With
oh
his
yeah,
parents?
absolutely. Like
Okay.
his parents were actually like, the thing was for them was like, you know, you could have just told us. That was their reaction to it. It's like, like we thought you were really unhappy and that you were like an asexual and that you didn't even enjoy sex and all this other stuff.
Right, right.
Right,
So
because
they were making
they were
up their
kinda
own stories
worried and
behind
right,
it.
because it was like so taboo because, you know, he was looking at a lot of the similar stuff that I was looking at and, you know, we kind of grew up together and this and that and the other thing. And so yeah, like same sort of experiences, right? He didn't really tell anybody. He comes off the same way as I do. Like I think we've never actually ever been called out for being faggots. Like even when we're holding hands and walking down the street, it's like
Right.
Here
Huh.
in Calgary?
no, like we
Okay.
don't really do that. Like he's in Seattle,
Oh, it was Seattle. Okay.
right? And he's been there. He's working for a company there, so it's been hard. But I mean, I actually need to kind of go and visit him pretty soon here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for that. And then the other thing is that, you know, I've got him sort of to meet people who are open
Mm-hmm.
and to realize that it's like, it's fucking fine.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Right.
It's
just-
weird to be shut out of your sexual
Yeah,
desires
yeah,
almost,
yeah.
rather than the other way around.
Yeah. It's getting to this point where it's like, you're weird if you don't realize that you are a sexual thing, right? Like
Yeah.
the church doesn't really control us anymore, and you don't have to hide the fact that you enjoy masturbating, and you don't have to hide the fact that you enjoy sex or that you enjoy porn or all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Even though some people do, and
Yeah.
I really don't understand why.
Yeah.
Like,
Well-
I've heard horror stories of like people in relationships that are like, my girlfriend won't give me sex, but she also won't let me look at porn or masturbate. And all I can think is like,
So what the hell are you doing?
yeah, like, like what's the point of that? Like,
Yeah.
Afraid of not being able to get another person, I guess.
no, but the thing is that
Like-
she's just using it, like she's using sex as a control mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's not fun. That's not a healthy relationship.
That's not healthy at all.
That's like me not giving a child food as a control mechanism. That's not a healthy way to raise a child.
Yeah. If you don't behave, you don't
Yeah.
get food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh, so I
Except-
can't do
except-
that with my dog anymore.
That was
Hey,
a
with
joke.
dogs-
That was a joke.
Pups, it's
Yes.
okay. They've got to earn it. They've got to work for it, right?
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah,
You want your food? You want your food?
bend over. Bend over and show me where you want it.
That's hilarious. No, I agree. I think the church has kind of put a damper on things for way too long, and they've used guilt as the most powerful tool to make themselves like the
Yeah.
Vatican as it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's built on guilt
All right.
and built on making people feel bad about being human, and they take the most common things of being a human and turn that into a sin, and then therefore you're under their control because you feel guilty.
And
It seems so obvious, doesn't it?
and I think
It's a very obvious.
it happens. It
trick.
happens in Judaism too, and in Islam, right? Like
Mhm.
in Judaism, there's a lot of rules that you have to follow, right? There's a ton of rules that you're supposed to follow.
You're not supposed to even give fellatio in Judaism,
Oh well.
as far as I've heard. I could be wrong on that. I could be completely wrong, but
Well, you're also not supposed to like work one day of the week, right? So it's that and work includes turning on a light switch, right? Like the ultra
that's
orthodox.
ultra orthodox. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
ultra
yeah,
orthodox. But I mean, like it still sort of comes down to the fact that it's like you're supposed to feel bad more or less about your existence, and the way you feel good about your existence is by, worship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's the same way in Islam, right? It's like, okay, we're going to set up these rules, so, you have to fast certain times, and you have to, you can't eat certain foods and all these things. And it's like, when you break those rules, which everybody does, I do not know a Muslim who I have met who hasn't smoked, or hasn't drank, or hasn't enjoyed in certain pleasures of the night, or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like, I know plenty of them that have more or less broken things, and it's designed so it's like, okay, so now that you've broken things, you're supposed to feel guilty, and that's supposed to bring you back to the church.
Yeah.
Right. That's their sort of, it's like
Draw.
an abusive relationship.
Yeah, abusive relationship is
It's,
right.
it's the abusive relationship that's like, you know, you did something wrong, I'm gonna beat you, but then I'm gonna treat you really well after.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And pretty much put the whole world in a 500 plus, well, almost 2,000 year prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dark Ages.
Yeah.
Think of where we'd be if it wasn't for that.
But who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe
So-
we'd be on Pluto.
Maybe not just sending probes there, but actually on Pluto.
Maybe there'd be a lot more kennel clubs.
Just people walking people down the street.
Yeah, it's just a common thing.
So do you ever think that you're like born in the wrong era? Like if you could go back and like live in the Roman times, that would be like a lot easier, or it's just, because like there's so many like we were talking about earlier. There's a lot of people that are still really not open to it, or like even on the internet where it's supposed to be open and free and like just accepting, you know. Whereas you go back to the Roman time and you know something like that would have been just, you know, kind of par for the course.
I just think people in the Romans and Greeks and stuff, they just knew how to fucking party.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing of it is like, you know, they lived a life that was hard, yeah. But at the same time, it was also more comfortable in certain ways, right? It was simpler, and then sort of, you know, it was more or less work, or as long as you paid your taxes, the government did not give a fuck, right? That was sort of the thing.
There's no police or anything like that. It was.
Well, there was a little, like, there's the Roman armies and stuff, and they would make sure that stuff was happening in the streets, like they would make sure it's all clean. But for the most part, it was like, you know, you could go to a bathhouse, and there would be naked women. You could have sex and like, whatever.
It wasn't a big deal.
It's life.
Yeah.
Right. And so for the Greeks, it was common to have a younger person, like a younger man, to more or less be your second wife.
Yeah.
Right. All at the same time, I mean, for the Greeks, it was like a wife was, you know, the life for women was really not good.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, something that's changed quite a bit, and I think we should be really happy about today.
Yeah.
So.
Made progress.
Yeah, if anything, the whole progress is.
Yeah.
It's moving, slowly but surely.
I think it's like moving this way and moving this way. It's like constantly like a tug of war. Like every time it progresses a little bit forward, it also degresses a bit in another direction.
Well, I have this theory that it's the problem with like a lot of the gender politics and stuff is that it's a zero-sum game, right? It's like anytime one group of people raise awareness for one thing that affects them, that's pulling resources away from other groups of people. And so instead of having this, you know, really sort of open and utilitarian sort of social experience with that type of stuff, you're getting one group of people that are the loudest and they're getting the most funding, and then everybody else is suffering because of it. Right? And then eventually what happens is another group and they start doing the exact same thing and they just start fighting. Right? And that's what's happening right now with a lot of the feminists and a lot of the MRAs and a lot of like other sort of groups. They're all sort of fighting right now. They're all infighting because they all want access to these resources by different groups, and they all want, you know, awareness for their campaigns and their causes, and they all want access to the same things. But right now it's whoever's the loudest wins. And it really sucks.
Like, squeaky wheel gets greased kind of syndrome.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
true.
And it's like it's that whole, we go progress back and we go back this way and we go back this way, and it's like, well, a lot of that is just stemming from us not building up a single system to deal with all these things equally and fairly, but listening to the commonwealth, or like listening to like the commons and hearing only the loudest voice. Which I hate. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah. I sometimes I feel like people are just making up minorities.
Yeah.
So they can like just get something out of it.
Yeah.
Or be popularized because they were the one that helped move that minority to the spotlight.
Yeah.
And that really, I hate that. That drives me bonkers. Someone we used to work with tried to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I drew a lot of problems with that because it's like corporations that get behind a some sort of minority or some sort of group that needs help, and they make a huge production out of helping this minority.
Yeah.
And it's not for the minority, it's for the image of the company.
Yeah.
And that's my problem. I hate that. Big time.
And it's a
Piggybacking off of.
Yeah.
Good,
Look at how
otherwise
good we
causes.
are. Yeah. Look at the good things we're doing.
right, but it's always like it's the most popular thing.
Yeah.
Right, like in Canada, for example, I think the one group of people that is the most impoverished and the most in need are Aboriginals.
Mm-hmm.
And if you step onto the internet, there's nothing about Aboriginals in Canada. There's nothing about Aboriginals in the United States. It's all about feminists and racism and problem XYZ.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's not with like the worst off group of people, which happens to be Aboriginals who have the highest. I think they're becoming the highest rate of STDs or of like AIDS victims. They have like rampant rape and stuff, and it's like these are issues that we need to fix and help and deal with. But it's like no, that's the group is too small. Instead, we've got really loud people who have gender and race degrees from schools who know how to use the internet and who know how to get access to Jezebel and Gawker and all these other things.
Yeah.
That they're pushing.
Clickbait.
Yeah, and they're pushing out these
Clickbait,
BuzzFeed articles, and those are the ones that are getting all the attention.
Oh my god, yeah.
Right.
Upworthy. I've seen other. I really do need to just cancel my Facebook. Just fucking drives
Yeah.
me nuts.
It kind of makes you want to just get off of
Well, because I pull out my
Facebook.
phone and I'm just starting looking through it, and like I realize that I've already cycled through it like 5 times.
Yeah.
It's just like muscle memory. I'm not even really looking at it.
I've started to do that with Reddit. It's kind of like looking in the fridge.
I don't really go on Reddit much.
No, but like
You already know what's in the fridge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know what's in the
yeah,
fridge.
yeah,
and you're like,
anyways.
I'm gonna open the fridge.
Well,
and then
that's
you're
what I
like-
do with Facebook, basically.
Yeah, and you're like, you go away for 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, there's nothing in the fridge, and you go
Let's
sit
see
down
if
for
something
10
new
minutes.
came in there.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's some salami that I found way in the back. Oh no, it's got mold on it. Fucking Upworthy.
You're like, oh, there might be something new.
No, there isn't.
Or you try to find comments. You get so desperate that you start looking at the comments for things,
Oh god.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's sad.
and you don't know whether or not like it's like a reality TV show. Like I don't know if this is scripted or if this is an
Yeah.
actual person,
Yeah.
right?
And there's always the back and forth.
Yeah.
It's never just like a bunch of people saying the same thing. It's always fucking back and forth. One person saying one thing, the other person saying the polar opposite. And
Just for
you're
shit's
just
sake.
looking at it going like, I don't know what to believe here.
Yeah. You get a lot of people that are just doing it for shit's sake, though. They're just fucking trying to cause trouble.
Yeah.
Trolls.
Yeah.
I guess life would be less interesting without them,
Mm-hmm. Did you watch the movie Her?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I absolutely love that movie.
I freaking love that movie too. Did you see it yet?
I don't
Of course
watch
you haven't
movies.
seen it.
Phil don't watch movies.
Phil don't watch no movies.
I'm too busy on Facebook with my phone.
Yeah, maybe we should get off Facebook and get into some movies.
Popcorn time, man.
Popcorn time. High five.
Yeah. Totally recommend that stuff.
Bob introduced
Which
me
one's
to
Her?
Popcorn time, and love it.
Okay, yeah, I know what
Hers-
you're talking about.
hers
There's a
with
new
the-
one I gotta tell you guys about, but I have to get the name of it first and everything else. So I'll tell you once I figure it out. But
Okay.
Her's the one with
It's pretty good.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I know
he's
what you're
got the
talking
little
about.
tiny.
Yeah, I
He
wanted
gets
to
in a
see that one.
relationship with his AI.
With his iPhone,
Yeah,
right? Siri?
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah. Well, it's intelligent enough for him to get into a relationship with.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm curious to know if that is actually going to happen in the next, decade. I think the way that AI is going, that's actually going to happen. And I
Can
think
meet all your
eventually, at some point, you're going to have a relationship with an AI, or you can have a relationship with an AI, or something that's like not human.
I think that'll happen, but at the same time, I get this feeling that it's only going to affect a very small group of people. It'll affect like 10% of the population who are looking for exactly what they want, right? Because that's the problem with an AI, is that if I have an AI, it's not going to piss me off. And I think in part of a relationship is you need somebody to piss you off. You need somebody to get angry at. You need somebody to struggle with and to fight with. And I don't know, maybe younger generations will feel more entitled to having a relationship that's perfect, and their perfect relationship is with Google. But the way I see it is, it's like, that's not going to be a real relationship.
Yeah, but what if the AI can also argue with you? Like, I mean, if you're like, I mean,
it's too easy. It's too easy to just shut it off, right?
Maybe it won't be.
Well, what's it going to do? Is it going to be in your house and it's going to walk around the house?
It's going to be in a server, right? You could just turn it down, but you can't end it.
No, but like you can just ignore, like you can mute it or ignore it, right? You can't do that to a person, right? Especially a person you're in a relationship
That brings
with.
up some ethical questions.
Yeah.
So I guess I was thinking like down the road, like Android stuff.
Like Ex Machina.
Okay.
Where you would
Like Ex Machina.
would be walking around in your house. Or in a kennel in the basement.
In a basement somewhere. Sex robots everywhere.
My other buddy and I are working on it, like a space comedy.
Yeah.
And there's the two main characters have a feminist sex robot.
Nice. That's a good one. He just walks around saying don't objectify me and stuff.
Yeah, it's like, I have sex on my own terms.
Nice.
That's pretty good.
She should find the perfect man one time. It was just like, she's the worst, absolute worst sex robot. just she's like, she's been so dry this entire time and designed for sex.
Doesn't even know what to do.
Yeah.
Just like all that original programming is just ruined.
Completely.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
Or she's like the exact opposite of like what you would expect. She's like a total sort of misogynistic person in bed, where she's like just a complete bimbo. And, yeah.
And then as soon as it's done, she's just like
Back to normal.
feels
Yeah.
sick about herself, like dry heaving, even though she's a robot.
And even though she's like, and even though like the man is like a complete gentleman about everything and all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. That was fun.
It's no, it's with the androids and stuff. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if you can ever fully imitate a person, especially with something as complex as like the there's the biochemicals that you need.
Yeah, I think it's gonna hit this. I think the development of androids is going to follow fairly closely the development of three-dimensional models of humans that we've built in animation.
Yeah.
So they're going to go through this stage where they start off extremely awkward, and then we're going to hit this stage where it's really realistic, but it's off. It doesn't move
Something
quite
wrong.
right. It's wrong. So you hit the uncanny valley stage of androids, and then then there's another leap beyond that where they've figured it out. They figured what that uncanny valley thing that made it look that way.
Yeah.
They figured out how to get around that, and then it'll hit that phase where you can't tell the difference between one person and an android.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that. I could.
Star Galactica.
I also get the feeling that I think the android, like, I think we're gonna evolve not to care about physical objects anymore. Like that's the feeling I get when I look at all this VR stuff that's happening. I see it much more likely that we're just gonna start living in this shielded world where everything is got this virtual digital layer like draped over top of it. You know, like that's kind of the way I see it. So it's like
Probably
So-
will be a big portion of people that would be
Ultimately, virtual reality, I think, is headed towards creating the world that you want.
well, the world that we think we want, which is ultimately, you know,
Yeah,
consumerist.
virtual unreality.
Yeah.
it's been built by
Microsoft
Whatever
and
yeah.
like all these companies, Facebook, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be scary. I'd hate that fucking world so much.
No, I'm talking about like not a world like controlled like this world is that you've created is brought to you by Microsoft.
No, I'm
No.
I'm talking about like you know, you're walking down a street, right? But you're looking through some sort of goggles or some sort of glasses, and everything looks normal, but things are just modified slightly, right? So it's like you see a person walking past you, and on part of their person are logos. Like you just happen to catch out of the corner of your eye, right? Like, and those things don't actually exist in real life, but you know, your goggles are putting them there, your glasses are putting them there. Or you're walking down the street and you know, you'll walk past a building and you know, normally this building looks kind of dingy and ugly, but your computers know that you're hungry, right? Like they know you haven't eaten in a while, or that you know you got a fit watch on you and your blood pressure's a little high or your blood sugar's a little low or what have you.
You know, I recommend a cranberry spinach salad.
Yeah, but it's not even that. It's just you end up walking by this building, then there's, you know, a Subway in there, and, like, the pictures pop out at you a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they're, like, a little bit juicier looking and a little bit fresher looking. Even though
Or
when you...
they enhance the tomatoes on it because they know
Yeah.
you like tomatoes.
Yeah,
You know?
and, like, and then you go, but you know, you've been to that fucking Subway before, and you fucking hate that Subway because,
Yeah.
you know, they always make it wrong, or the tomatoes
Yeah.
are always, like, a day old.
So you end up just going in there and eating some shitty tomatoes
Right.
on a sandwich. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's
Yeah.
like a little bit of like subliminal messaging.
Well, it's like, it's they're just altering the world as you walk through it and manipulating it just enough so that you're like, you know, this is what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And what you want is what we're telling you.
Yeah. They're basically in your head.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
basically the same thing as
Yeah.
being in your head.
Yeah.
But I read an interesting book.
I knew this was gonna happen.
That's the second one. That's only two. Anyways,
Quick Freddy.
yeah, Quick Freddy, and it had a good section of it about how in the future advertisements, altered carbon, I think it's called. Yeah. Anyways, in the future, you'll walk by these droids that are set up on the street, just about the same kind of idea as a fire hydrant, and as you walk by it, it'll like shoot advertisements directly into your head, and it'll like try to get you to pay for things while it's actually in there. And I was like, wow, you know what? You know, with the way technology is going, I wouldn't doubt it if eventually gets down there.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's the double-edged side of technology. Is
With corporations paying off government and just like,
Well,
we'll
it's-
just slip that in there.
Yeah.
Who
Corporations
wants
are
to
the
do that?
ones building it, so if you want that experience, you have to be a part of that corporation somehow.
Pay
or
extra to not have fucking shit thrown
the
at
only
brain.
the only way to really
Totally.
combat it is to just keep the market as shallow as possible, right? Is to not let companies become mega companies. Is to
Yeah,
like
it's true.
have like boutiques.
Yeah, like the only
Almost.
that's the only real way to do it. Like, I mean, there's companies like General Electric and Johnson & Johnson. They're like massive companies, and like I can't even name all the sub companies that they own and all the like different little spin-offs that they have and all the products that they make. But like that's the problem, right? Whereas if you have a whole bunch of these really small companies everywhere, they're all competing, and that's the good thing, right? And when that technology finally hits, you're gonna have these options of like, do I go with this thing or do I go with this thing? And that's what I really hope. That's why I really hope. Yeah, like open source
Yeah.
is like really, really important.
Not like you can choose Rogers or you can choose Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by the way, they're
And
going to be the
we'll work together to create the exact same billing,
exact same experience across the
exact
board.
same experience.
The only difference is that Bell has, this sort of advertisement package that's going to be pumped into your face, and Telus is going to have this advertisement package that's going to be pumped into your face.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, it's nothing that you actually care about, because what you care about are these craft beers that can't afford to be putting on.
Yeah, that can't afford the advertising.
Yeah, they
so
can't afford it.
They're not going to show
Right.
up.
Or like the special products or all these niche things that you really enjoy.
That would be
Yeah.
cool if there would be legislation like that, because in the future when there's products like specific to AI, you can have a AI boutique downtown
Yeah.
that specializes in these crazy cool personalities that you might want to interact with, and you could have more than one AI that you interact with a day, like a
Yeah.
community, and like buy these different AI or something like that, rather than having one like Cortana or Siri,
Yeah.
and like just have these ones from different mega corporations. That would be pretty rad. Actually, we should open up a AI boutique.
So you should
I
have
think
like
Kind
some
of
companies should
future.
have like a mulligan. They go bankrupt once, and then after that, they're completely shut down. They can't get bailed out or something like that.
That's almost they'd never go for it. There's too many
Forced
lobbyists.
mulligan.
Too many lobbyists.
Yeah.
But,
I was saying what's one of those things that really pisses me off is like the lobbyist stuff. I was saying that like I think there should be no lobbyist. I think election like in Canada at least, the Elections Canada, they should be the ones who collect all of the money
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and everybody gets the same access to the funds and they get the same access to airtime, radio time, and internet time.
Yeah.
And
It's split evenly.
it's split evenly, and you know what? And what you get with your funds
Mm-hmm.
and how you use the funds will be a big representation of how you can run your government. Right?
Interesting idea. Yeah.
Like-
it'll show off like if you run a good campaign, better campaign with the same amount of funds than
Yeah,
someone else.
exactly.
Mhm.
It shows how well you can manage yourself and the country beyond that.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And it's like, you know what? Some guy wasted all of their funding on like one thing, and it flopped. And it's like, well, so what does that say about their political platform?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're only going to be pushing one thing, and when that one thing doesn't work out the way they want, is it going to flop? Right? Like,
You're screwed.
they're screwed. Like, is that sort of what we want hire, right?
Yeah.
But people would never go for that. Like,
I like that.
Maybe
Actually,
a lot
that's
of people
great
that
idea.
go for it, but
Yeah.
well, a lot of people would go for it, but a lot of news organizations and agencies and stuff like they wouldn't go for it.
No.
Yeah.
Because they need to be biased and they need to have their markets and this, that, and the
Mhm.
other thing.
They need to have their voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fox News needs to report Fox News, and ABC needs to report, ABC News, not what's the actual news. They
Yeah.
need to report their brand of news.
Yeah.
Which pisses me off.
God, I tried watching.
Yeah.
Try watching that stuff. It's just U.S. news. It's just god awful. It is so bad.
Oh, yeah.
It is just
It really
garbage.
is, especially like just stepping outside of it and then looking at it. It's
Yeah.
just like
And it's so polarized.
people don't know that.
Yeah. It's either Republican or
Yeah.
Democrat.
Democrat.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. And it's like Fox News is absolutely awful. But
It's
then,
one of the worst things out there.
but then you watch like NBC News and you're like, this is just as fucking bad.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
That's it. And then CNN. And then you're just like, how? How
Yeah.
do they do this?
And somehow Fox's brand is that they're awful at this point. Like
Yeah.
everybody knows that they're bad, yet they still seem to survive.
I don't know.
I guess people, it's like I said, people just want to hear what they want to hear. Like some people just want to hear what they want to hear, and they don't want to face any hard ideas, and they don't want to face anything difficult, and they want to live in this sort of perceived world that they've created.
They
And
want to eat the same food. That's the best thing I've got is
Yeah.
my food analogy.
No.
Is that like you just
Yeah.
don't want to try something else.
yeah, that's exactly it though.
They and you know what? That's kind of depressing because there's probably a lot more to that person
Yeah.
than what they've been fed and what they think they are.
Yeah, I absolutely think so.
Mm-hmm.
But
And kind of ties into our discussion tonight is like you've kind of gone for you've taken that chance, you've taken the opportunity to chase what you like and go after who you are and not be afraid, unabashedly just go out there and do what you need to do, and and you're better for it.
absolutely.
You are more human than most humans.
Right, and it's like I love the experiences that I've gone through.
Mm.
Like I'm way more open to like hearing a person's idea and taking critique and understanding where somebody's coming from than having never gone through those experiences and
Mhm.
just keeping it shut out and keeping myself repressed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Sure, it's, certain things that absolutely suck, like going for an STI test, fucking sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time, there's no good way to go get tested, like for sexually transmitted diseases. It fucking sucks. They have yet to make like a really fun way to do it. Which you think it's like, this is, like why can't I just have sex with something?
Yeah.
Like that I think would sell really well. An STD clinic where all you do is you walk in and there's like fleshlights or dildos. That's how you get tested.
You stick your dick in there and then it's like beep, gives you a lighter.
Yeah, you're like, yeah.
And it turns out that you got something that somebody else had because they just didn't clean it. This one's got mold in it.
Oh.
Yeast infections.
Oh.
Yeast.
That's my least favorite word.
Yeast?
No, like in yeast infection.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
two words
Together?
actually, it's just the worst. Anytime I'm like eating or I'm just sitting watching TV and there's a commercial on yeast infection.
How about milky discharge?
I just say, I'm fine with that.
Okay, all right.
I think that's my $1 million idea right there is to start a.
All right. I think it's got legs.
You make a way of making it disposable though.
Oh, it's just like it's a doctor's office. It's got that thin white piece of paper. Put down on it.
Yeah, that paper makes me feel safe.
Can I get like 2 plies, please?
The funny thing is,
I just saw a homeless guy
if you're
come
sitting
out
on
here, I don't know.
if you're sitting on the edge of that table, some guy's nuts are gonna be like resting on the part that's not covered by that thin sheet of paper. Like it's gonna hang over that paper part.
That's a good point.
It's not gonna hit the paper.
That's why I would push it down a little bit. And like,
His butt's gonna be underneath the paper, but the actual like plastic part of the chair is gonna be all covered in nasty STI shit.
In touching.
And
It's covered in touch.
it's covered in touch. Ugh. Yeah.
next time you go to the doctor's office, make sure you grab some antibacterial soap or something and just start swabbing down.
Yeah. What are you doing? This is your job.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, my thoughts on that type of life and what you going after what you want that's the way to do it, man. And I have a lot of admiration for that. I think that's
Thanks.
Yeah,
great.
thanks for
Yeah.
coming on. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing, man.
It was great. It was really fun.
Yeah.
It was a great experience.
Yeah, if time comes again, we should have you back and just talk, shoot the breeze, and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Bounty.
Maybe get another guest on. We can just drill them with questions, all three of us. So
That'd be fun. I would enjoy being in the hot seat.
yeah,
Hearing
awesome.
some other
someone else describe it.
or possibly having to explain shit again. Because now you guys all know sort of what things are.
Yeah,
You guys- I can't wait to start hearing the inside jokes that you guys make about this shit. It's so funny.
Well, if there is, it'll be between us three for now. But
Yeah.
it'll grow. It'll grow. Thank you very much, Bob, for being on our show.
No,
Thanks,
thanks,
Bobby.
yeah.
And we really appreciate it. And hope you guys did too. And we'll see you on the next episode. You gotta tune that shit.
Yeah, I know. I forgot to tune it for this time. The last time I thought it was in tune, but it wasn't.